Hi everyone and welcome back to Wilde Reads. My name is Dave, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first in an occasional series of videos that I'm going to call Let's Talk About. Now I've been wanting to mix up the content on the channel for a little while because I'm very conscious of getting stuck in the rut of just doing hauls and TBRs and wrap-ups. You know, I don't want to get bogged down in just doing all the standard stuff, although I do love doing all that, but I want to make it as interesting as I can for you guys, the viewers. So I thought I'd come up with a new series, and this is just about in my little booktube book of things that I occasionally write down ideas for when I get an idea for a video. There's quite a few of them there which I can put all under the banner of Let's Talk About and make a discussion video. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And today's video, or tonight's video, is going to be about rereading. Now, rereading is a subject that we hear a lot about on booktube, and I read a lot about it in blogs. And it's one of my favourite sayings that if I've just read a favourite book, I will often say to myself or to anyone else, I'm going to reread that one day. I know a lot of people say this, but do we actually get round to doing any rereading? Another reason for doing the subject on rereading tonight is that whilst I was sorting through some old paperwork, I came across an old article that was published in the Guardian newspaper here in the UK. And this was published by a journalist called Jack Thurston, and it came out on the 3rd of July 2007. And the title of this article is Why Rereading is a Crime. Now, I'm not sure if this article is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but he goes on to make some pretty explosive points. Now, I'm gonna summarise this article. He starts off by saying, summer is the time of year when we are told what to read. Summer reading supplements fall from the newspapers and collect on coffee tables, set aside to be read later. In a literary beauty parade, the great and the good line up to update us on how obscure and intellectual they are this season, while also giving the nod to the latest marketing sensation just to prove that they're still cutting edge. Summer is the season for literary insecurity. Flat on your back in the hotel room, idly surfing the channels, you're what's dumbfounded as your girlfriend, who first of all is a woman and second of all has an English degree and so has two good reasons to be confident that she will already read more books than you, assembles a great leaning tower of books and explains that those are just the ones she read on the plane, while it doesn't leave much time for snorkeling or hammock snoozling after a good lunch. There's no reason why people shouldn't choose to bury themselves under a pile of books on holiday, but there's one little verb that's inexcusable wherever you are reading this summer: reread. Anyone who talks about rereading a book is arrogant, narrow-minded or dim. Now, the article goes on, and I am sure this guy is a bit tongue-in-cheek about this, because why would rereading a book make you dim? If you look at the other art forms, if you look at the cinema, no one thinks you're dim or arrogant or narrow-minded for wanting to watch your favourite film more than once. In the world of art, no one thinks you're arrogant, dim-witted or narrow-minded for wanting to look again and again at your favourite painting. In the world of music, you're going to listen to your favourite musical piece over and over again. Why is rereading in some quarters seen as a bit dodgy? Now, I know I've seen videos on here from Steve Donahue springs to mind, where Steve Donahue, I hope I get this right, and I can't remember what video it was on because, as you know, Steve releases a lot of videos, and I'm sure that I heard him say on one of them that he views rereading as an absolute must. Now, I'm really bad at rereading. If I just look around the shelves here and I look at some of my favourite books, or look over there and have a look at some of my favourite books, the list of potential rereads is growing rapidly, and I hope one day to get round to rereading A Little Life. I hope to get round to rereading Tin Man. I really hope to get round to reading Never Let Me Go. I'm really bad at scheduling in, because in the back of my mind, and in the back of your minds as well, I'm sure, we're always thinking, we've got so much stuff on the shelves, so many books on the shelves that are still unread. How are we ever going to get the time to schedule in a reread? Now, the only book that I've constantly reread over the years, as you'll probably guess, is Howard's End. I'm just going to reach around to the Howard's End shelf and just pick a copy of it at random. So Howard's End, long-time watchers of this channel will know that Howard's End is my favourite book of all time. This is a particularly gorgeous cover of it. I first bought this book when I was about 14 years old, and I bought an old Penguin Classic, you know, the orange cover Penguin Classic, for 10p at a jumble sale. It stayed on my shelf for a couple of years, but when I did eventually get round to reading it, I loved it so much that I read it. I think by the end of that year, I'd read it at least twice. And over the years, I reread it pretty much every year. I haven't reread it for about 5 years or so, but that is my most reread book. But the other books that I've reread in my life, I can probably count on one hand. So I'm really bad at rereading. And you may remember recently when I had my unhaul video that one of the criteria for unhauling and getting rid of books was the fact that I was very unlikely to ever either get round to reading them again or ever want to read them again. But I suppose if there's two criteria for rereading, surely it has to be A, that they're one of your favourite books, or B, could it be that you didn't quite grasp the book the first time round? A book that springs to mind recently is Crudo, which I wrapped up in my last August wrap-up. I really did enjoy the book, but I didn't feel as if I properly grasped it. I didn't feel as if I really understood it as maybe deeply that I should have done, and I may pick that up better on a reread. Surely that has got to be a good enough reason for rereading. And I look around here and there must be 1,000 books waiting still to be read, but certainly in the high hundreds. And so I suppose I feel slightly guilty about wanting to schedule in some rereading, but away with the guilt. What I think I'm going to do next year is I'm going to pencil in, when I come round to doing my TBRs from January, one of them is going to be a favourite reread of a novel. There was another article that I came across as well. There's actually a couple of articles here. This one was published in November 2011 in the New Yorker, and it goes on to say in an article, when we read a book for the first time, the very process of laboriously moving our eyes from right to left or from left to right, line after line, page after page, this complicated physical work upon the book, the very process of learning in terms of space and time what the book is about, this stands between us and artistic appreciation. When we look at a painting, we do not have to move our eyes in a special way, even as in a book the picture contains elements of depth and development. The element of time does not really enter in a first contact with a painting. In reading a book, we must have time to acquaint ourselves with it. So I just wanted to ask people really and get a bit of a discussion going about rereading. Are you a rereader? Have you reread? Have you felt guilty about rereading? Not that, I mean, I don't think there's anything to feel guilty about. I'm sure there isn't. But I always say, whenever I finish a book that I've either 4-starred or I've 5-starred, there's always a bit of me that thinks I'm going to reread that one day. I've got some Graham Joyce novels up there in the hardback section that were they're so beautifully written that I said to myself years ago when I read them, I said, one day I am going to reread those. But that day keeps on looking further and further in the distance. So what is the criteria that you use for rereading? Is it a novel that you didn't feel that you fully understood the first time round, and so you think you may enjoy the novel more if you reread? Have you reread novels in the past that have been better on the reread? Have you read novels in the past that have been worse? You've had to reconsider your feelings about that book. I will be fascinated to know your thoughts on this and anything else around and in the subject of rereading. I'm definitely going to think some more about it, and I'm going to come up with a list, I think, for the new year of novels that I've read in my lifetime that I definitely want to reread. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments box down below. And if I collect enough comments and enough different points of view, we may even revisit this video at some point in the near future and make a let's talk about rereading again. Whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books, and I'll see you on Sunday for another BookTube video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.